Hi guys, it's Beverly. It's the first time I've used this camera, so I'm hoping that this works. So today I'm going to do a tutorial on a Premiere pattern, and it's called the Colorful Cluster Throw. And it calls for that new Premiere puzzle yarn, but I don't have any of that. If you're going to make this, I really recommend the yarn. I just haven't bought any. I've seen it, but I haven't bought any yet. I'm going to be using some of my stash. I have the Red Heart Colorscape. And then this is kind of close to what this is. This is the colorway Seattle. And the pattern calls for a J hook, so I'm going to use my Furls J hook. And let's get started on the tutorial. See you in a bit. Okay, let's start our tutorial on our Premiere colorful cluster throw. Now again, the pattern says that it's an intermediate, but we're going to do it together and I'm sure it will be fine. Now what I like about this pattern is the width of the blanket is 36 by 42. So to me that's a very good size for a Lapgan. And I'll be donating this to our local county guy that takes stuff to dialysis in different places. So let's start. Okay, let's see if I can find the tail here. I got some yarn barf. Okay, I found the tail. Now let's take a closer look at our pattern. Now this uses Premiere Puzzle yarn, and Premiere Puzzle is 100% acrylic, and it's a number 5 weight. And at this point, Walmart has been having it in stock, and a lot of the ladies in my crochet club have been making projects with it. Now this says that this would take 4 balls, and they're each 7 ounces, but that's a 5 weight. And that's why it would take 4 balls. If you were using an acrylic, it might not take that much, but I'm going to be using the J hook that is recommended. And you can see that right there. And I'm not going to be really using the gauge. A lot of people, it says there, right there, save time, check your gauge. What I'm going to do is measure as I go along. And that's what most people do. Now, if you would like to make this blanket smaller or larger, it says what you can do is use a stitch guide of a multiple of 5 plus 4. And what that means is you could chain 5 and keep chaining 5 and counting them until your blanket gets to be your chain gets to be as wide as you like to have your blanket. And then at the end, you would add 4 stitches, which accommodates for the beginning of your chains. So what you could do is do 5 and then 5 and 5 and 5 and measure. But over here, it's guessing that for this weight of yarn and the dimensions of this pattern, that you would chain 139. And then you would work the stacked cluster stitch, which we're going to learn, until the piece measured 42 inches. And then you would finish it off. And this blanket does not require a border. So let's start out by completing our chain, and I'm going to go with the 139 chains and see if that gets me to my 36 inches. So let's give that a try. So we're going to start out by making a slip knot. And the slip knot is not a big deal. I do it a little bit different than most people. I just put it over my index finger of my left hand, wind it around and give me an X. Then I pull it off of my finger so I have a circle. And then I bring the working yarn behind and I just pull it through. That's how I do it. And I've seen a lot of people do them really fancy. That's how I do mine. Okay, now we want to chain 139 chains. So we put the slip knot on our hook, and then we bring the hook towards us. We go under the yarn, pull through, towards us, under the yarn, pull through, towards us, under the yarn, pull through. Okay, and I'm going to pause the video and finish doing my chains, and then I'll bring you back. Okay, I have 139 chains. So now we're going to work over here on our pattern, and it says row 1. Row 1 says to work 4 double crochets, chain 3, and 1 double crochet in the 6th chain from the hook. Okay, I'm going to see if I can kind of prop this up a little, but it's probably not going to work. Okay, so 4 double crochets, chain 3, and 1 double crochet in the 6th chain from the hook. And there's a comma, so I stop. So that's what we're going to do first. So we're going to come over here, and we're going to, the one on the hook doesn't count, so you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's the 6th one. And the pattern says to work 4 double crochets in there. Okay, so we've got 1 and a double crochet. I'll review in case you know or you need a refresher. Insert your hook in the same chain. I'll back up. Yarn over and insert your hook. Pull up a loop. Pull through 2, pull through 2. Yarn over, insert it in the same stitch. Roll your hook, pull up a loop. Pull through 2, pull through 2. So it said to do 4, and now we have 3. Yarn over, insert your hook, pull through, pull through. Then it says to chain 3. So now we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3, and then it says to do another double crochet in the same stitch. So that is what's called the stacked cluster stitch. So we're going to be going back to the pattern. Now, so what we just did was we did 4 double crochets, 3 chains, and 1 double crochet in the 6th chain from the hook. Now there's an asterisk. And an asterisk usually means a repeat, but we're going to worry about that when we get a little further along. So now it says to skip the next 4 chains and then repeat that 4 double crochets, chain 3, 1 double crochet in the next chain. So let's do that. Okay. So right here next door is the chain, and we've got to make sure we don't skip any. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So that means in the 5th one, we're going to yarn over, insert our hook, pull up a loop, pull through 2, pull through 2. So that's our first double crochet. Yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2. So then we've got 2 double crochets. That's 3. And here's the 4th one, and I gotta adjust my yarn. Okay, so we have our 4 double crochets. So now we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then back in that same stitch we're going to do a double crochet, and again that's our stacked double crochet. Okay, let's look at the pattern again. So we skipped the 4 stitches, or the 4 chains. We did 4 double crochets, chain 3, and another double crochet. I hope it's focusing good here. In the next chain, and then it says to repeat from the asterisk. So that means that we're going to go back to this where we skipped the 4 and do 4 double crochets, 3 chains, and 1 double crochet in the next chain. So that would be the 5th one. And you do that across till you have the last 3 chains. And then after that, you skip 2 chains and double crochet in the last chain. Sorry, it's not focusing. There we go. And then you would turn. So skip 4, double crochet 4, chain 3, double crochet 1 in the 5th chain. You keep doing that until you get to the last 3 chains, and then I'll join you back and we'll proceed with row 2. And what happens is we are going to be repeating row 2 for the actual pattern. So this is just row 1, and then we're going to be repeating row 2 for the rest of the blanket. So I'll meet you back when we're down to the last 3 chains. Okay, I have finished up to my chain 3. Okay, and there's a couple things I want to say before we continue. Okay, first thing I want to say is it's all curly, and that's fine. We're going to straighten that out probably in the next row. But what I would like you to do is to come back to the beginning and unfold this. And make sure you have your 4 and then your chain 3, 4, chain 3, 4, chain 3, all the way across. Because life happens, and it's very rare that we can sit down and not be interrupted. But I want you to take a look all the way down and make sure, I already checked mine, so I'm going a little fast, but go all the way down before you proceed to the end and make sure you have everything. And if you don't, pause the video, and if you've heard the word frog means to undo it. And undo it so that you are back to your mistake and fix it. Pause the video, do that. Okay. Now, I have 3 chains left. 1, 2, 3. But let's say that I didn't have 3 chain slits. Let's say I had 4 or 5 or, you know, the wrong number. You could undo this little knot right here and slowly pull out the chains that make too many. And you don't even have to do it right now. You could do it down the road. If you don't have enough chains and you've put all this work into it, you can fudge it. Okay, so our pattern says, I'm going to bring the pattern in. Our pattern says to repeat it, that's what the asterisk meant, across to the last 3 chains. You're going to skip 2 and do a double crochet. So let's say you only had 2 left. Just skip 1. It'll be fine. If you have too many, we'll take them out later, or you can take them out later by untying that knot and retying a knot. Because there's nothing more frustrating than doing all this work up to this point and realizing you counted your chains wrong, because nobody is going to double check you. So hopefully that will help you. Now, it says in the last 3 chains, skip 2 and then do a double crochet in the last chain and turn. So let's do that. So I'm going to insert my hook, and I've got 3 chains, and so I'm going to do 1, 2, and I'm going to do a double crochet in that last chain. Okay, so there's our double crochet. It says to turn and chain 3 for row 2. I like to do my chain 3 first and then turn. So let's do that. 1, 2, and 3. Now I'm going to turn my work like the pattern says. And for row 2, the pattern says that chain 3 counts as a double crochet. It says to do 4 double crochets, chain 3, and a double crochet in each of the chain 3 spaces across to the last chain 3 space. So that's what we're going to do first. We're going to do this, and we're going to worry about this last line later. There's a comma there. So we chained our 3, and in the next chain 3 space, let's find the chain 3 space. That's right here. These are our chain 3 spaces, because we chained 3 to get that space. Not down here, up here. Now, we have our first chain 3. If you want to put a stitch marker up in the top of that chain 3, so you won't lose where you're supposed to go in, you can do that now. We want our blanket to be straight on the edges. So we could put a stitch marker where we're supposed to end and begin on both sides of the blanket, because we don't want our blanket to be uneven on the sides. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to yarn over, and we're going to go into the chain 3 space, yarn over, and pull up a loop. So we're going to do 4 double crochets in the chain 3 space. So I got 3 in there. And now I have 4. Now, I want to take a minute to mention this. The puzzle yarn is a 5 weight. This yarn is a 4 weight. And these 4 double crochets fit in here really nicely. With the puzzle yarn, it might seem a little too tight or a little too dense. You can always go down and just do 3 double crochets in these. If you're using a 5 weight yarn, it just could be too thick. So now we're going to chain our chain 3, and it says to do another double crochet in that same chain 3 space. We're going to come over here. We're not going in here. We're going over here in the chain 3 space. And we're going to do 4 double crochets. We're going to chain 3 and do another double crochet. And you can see how our blanket is going to look already. Now, and it's staying flat. See, it's not curling now. Okay. After we get done with this row, you will measure your blanket to see if it's the actual width that you want it to be. I'm hoping mine is going to be close to 36. And also during this row, you're going to decide if you have a 5 weight yarn, if you should just do 3 in here. Everything else would be the same. You would just do 3 double crochets if your yarn is too thick. I'm happy with how this feels, so I'm going to leave mine. And this is a 4 weight yarn, and I'm going to just do 4 double crochets in each chain 3 space. And the reason I bring this up about the puzzle yarn is one of the ladies in my crochet club has been using the puzzle yarn quite a bit, and I definitely am going to get some, but I'm trying to use up what's in my stash. And when she was making a similar pattern with the puzzle yarn, it called for 4 double crochets, and it was just too tight. The blanket was coming out way too thick, and you know, because we live in Florida, so you know, we're a little bit, we don't need it as heavy. But if you like it that way, perfect. I'm just offering you a tip. Okay, so yarn over, go into the chain 3 space, do your 4 double crochets, and your chain 3, and then your double crochet back into the same chain 3 space. Okay, so I'm going to pause the video. I'm going to join you back. Let's look at the pattern one more time. Okay, so it says to the last, okay, in each chain 3 space across to the last chain 3 space. So what's going to happen, you're going to go all the way across, but you're going to come back to the video before you start the next chain 3 space, or the last chain 3 space. So I'll meet you back when we get to this point, and we'll finish row 2. We'll measure our blanket, and we'll confirm that we are going to repeat the same row for the duration of our blanket. See you in a bit. Okay, so the pattern said, which I can show you, the pattern said to do our 4 double crochets, chain 3, 1 double crochet in each chain 3 space across to the last chain 3 space. Okay, so that's what we've got right here. This is our last chain 3 space. In the last chain 3 space, it says to skip the next 4 double crochets Okay, so let's look at this as we're doing it. So it says to skip the next 4 double crochets. Okay. I know what that means. It says to do it in the last one, skip the next 4, and then do it in the turning chain. See? Okay. To the last chain 3 space. So we're going to go ahead and complete our cluster in the last chain 3 space. Then we're going to skip the next 4 double crochets and double crochet in the top of the turning chain. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to do our last cluster. Okay. So there's 2. Three and 4, and then we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, and I gotta get some more yarn, and we're going to double crochet in that last turning chain. So we're completing our last cluster. Then it says to skip the 4 double crochets and do a double crochet in the turning chain. Now, so some of these patterns I would reword. It should say across and then after the last chain 3 space, skip the next 4 double crochets, okay? Because the way I read this, that I'm supposed to stop when I get to the last chain 3 space. But no, I'm supposed to complete it, and after it, I'm going to skip the next 4. Okay, so I completed it. I'm going to skip these 4 double crochets, and then up here on the top, I'm going to look for the top of the turning chain. So that would be 1, 2, 3. So if you look at this, there's your double crochet, so we're not going in that. We're going in the top of this. And if we had put a stitch marker in there, then we would have known without having to guess. So now we finished our last cluster. We're going to come over here and we're going to do 1 double crochet in the top of the turning chain. Okay, and then we're going to chain 3 and turn our work. Okay, and the pattern says do a double crochet in the top of the turning chain, which we did. Turn. and then repeat row 2 for the pattern. So that means the rest of the blanket. So I chain 3, which counts as the first double crochet, and I turned. So here I am. So if you want to be less confused when you finish this row and come back, you would want to put a stitch marker right in here. And the best time to do that would be right now, because you would be going in that hole. Now, for row 2, it says to do 4 double crochets, chain 3, 1 double crochet in each chain 3 space across. Then after the last one, skip the next 4 double crochets and do the double crochet in the top of the turning chain. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my work and bring back. So we're going to be doing this row. Okay, so here we are. So we would be going from here right into here to do our cluster. And we would be doing our cluster in each one of these. Now I'm going to move the blanket to the other end. I don't want to make you dizzy. But what we would do is we would keep going. And we would be doing our clusters in each one of these. Then we would do our last cluster in here. We would skip these 4 double crochets. But remember, we're not going in here because this is the top of that double crochet. Where we're going is in this. So that's why it's a good idea to put a stitch marker in the top of your turning chain. So I gotta fiddle this around. But see what I'm saying? When you came back, you would have this marked. I'm sorry, I gotta fiddle it around again. I'm sorry. There's the top of the turning chain right there. And so if you mark that with a stitch marker, when you come back, you would have it and you would know where to make your last double crochet. So that's why stitch markers are important, because it keeps you knowing where you're at, even when you're doing a continuous pattern. Because we need to know where our turning chain is in each end. Okay, so at this point, we talked about it earlier. I didn't measure my blanket yet, but I want to explain that there's no border on this pattern, on this blanket. And I did 139 chains. I'm going to measure my blanket. If it's 36 inches or close to 36 inches wide, I'm going to stop. I have 3 skeins of this yarn. I'm not sure if that's enough to make it to 42, but if it goes 40, that's good, or I might have to buy some more. But the point of this is so that you know that you can modify your pattern, like I mentioned, if you have bulky 5 and it's too bulky in your chain, then you could reduce it to 3 double crochets. Instead of 4 double crochets, you could do 3. And I also told you that if you chain to the end, I'm going to show you where we began. Let's say that you made a mistake and you didn't do enough chains. You can always double up or skip one. If you made too many chains, see, at this point we could undo that knot, and if I had made a mistake and did like 3 or 4 extra chains, I could pull the knot out and pull it up close to the work and tie another little knot. So hopefully you'll learn something from this pattern. If you have any questions, with this pattern, after you make the blanket as long as you would like, you just fasten off. Weave in your ends if you have any, and your blanket is finished. So, as always, please give me a thumbs up, share my video, and please let me know if you have any suggestions for tutorials, and we'll make them together. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye.